Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Head in the Cloud, Heart in the Community. My name is Holly Lehman, and I am here in Seattle, Washington, where it's actually not raining today. Shocking. And I'm joined by two of my friends that I would love to introduce you to. We are in episode 10 of Head in the Cloud, Heart in the Community. And I'm so happy because we get to go to three different countries today: US, and Izzy, if you want to take it over and tell us where you're joining us
Yeah,
from.
of course. We're Switzerland. Yeah, so hi, everybody. It's great to be back again for episode 10 of Head in the Cloud, Heart in the Community. I cannot believe what an amazing journey we had so far. And it will only get better with a very special guest we have today, because we travel all the way to Down Under. We're going to speak to former Microsoft MVP, currently customer engineer at Microsoft. So let's head over to Australia. Give a very warm welcome to Jess Dodson. So hey Jess, and welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning, good evening, good middle of the day. It's weird having all of us in different time zones. It's lovely to be here.
Well, we are so happy to have you. And Jess, we can only introduce you the best of our ability. I think Izzy did an amazing job, but I would love for you just to tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Jess Dodson. I'm more likely to be known as Girl Germs. So if you've ever spoken to someone called Girl Germs online or in a video game, that's likely to have been me. I'm a customer engineer with Microsoft, and I focus on identity and security. So that's my speciality and skill set. So I've been in tech for about 15 or so years. I was a sysadmin and an identity admin prior to joining Microsoft. And I'm extremely passionate about women in tech. So chances are you may have seen some of the talks that I've done at some conferences, or you may have attended some of those talks where I kind of speak at length about some of the things that we need to do to fix up the industry.
Well, and I think you touched on something that was really, I found it very interesting because I did a little bit of digging on you, Jess. I did see you've gone way, years back into the tech world, and it seems that your focus has been security and identity for quite some time. And being that we're all working from home, your area of tech is extremely powerful right now. So tell us a little bit about what your passion is with this area of tech and what you've seen in the last year with this journey where we're at.
So my passion for security and identity, so it was purely by accident, really. I kind of sort of fell into mine. So I was doing identity administration work at my previous employer, and that kind of worked its way into doing a lot of security, because one of the things that I talk about quite frequently now is that identity is the new security perimeter. So identity and security are really tightly tied together. So that's kind of how I fell into doing this. And it just became something that I'm passionate about, because it's something we just get so wrong so much of the time. You see all these breaches that are happening, and it's awful. And it's something that I like trying to help other organizations fix.
That's awesome.
All right. Yeah, that's good to know, Jess. And then, of course, I've also done some digging on you. So I've seen you joined Microsoft. I believe it's 2 years ago. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. But just about
and
2
then you
years ago.
started as a PFE, so premium field engineer, if I say it correctly. And then quite recently, actually, that role changed. We saw many of our friends around the globe. It changed to customer engineer, right? Could you tell us more, like did the role change? Did the name change? Like, what are your responsibilities? And tell us more about your day-to-day job.
It's really interesting. So I personally feel that the role hasn't changed at all. So my role, what I do day to day, hasn't changed in the slightest. I am still helping customers do what they do. So my role, it involves educating customers. It involves me talking predominantly to other techs and then sometimes technical managers on how best to either use Microsoft security products and identity products, or to provide recommendations on things that they could be doing to secure or improve their environment. So that's my job. So it hasn't changed at all. I personally love the change in title. So Premier Field Engineer means nothing. Like,
Yeah,
you
probably a
tell
lot
people,
of explaining, right? When somebody
yeah,
asks what you do, and you're like,
Yeah.
what?
yeah, what is that? Customer engineer, to me, it makes more sense because it aligns with what we do. We are engineers that assist Microsoft customers. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I found interesting, you talked a little bit already about your social media platforms that you're on and how active you are on social media. And I'll be honest, I started to follow you because I found you to be extremely entertaining,
Oh yeah.
loudly yourself. And I mean, but I appreciated the authenticity, and you made me laugh, and that is not easy to do on social platforms, especially when you haven't actually met the person. So I just kind of fell in love with your demeanor and the voice that you have on social platforms. And clearly you're doing wonders because you've got 10,000 people following you. I mean, it's just crazy. And so when we do these shows, we have a lot of people that are new into tech, or looking for mentorships or advice, and because we are now into the social media platform world that we live in, how do you leverage your voice for good on the different platforms that you're on?
So the first thing that I would say for people who are looking at trying to leverage that platform is to be yourself. So my Twitter account's been going now for nearly 13 years. So
Oh gosh.
it's not just been sort of like a woof, everyone's following me. It's been a very long, slow process. But my biggest piece of advice to people is to be authentic and to be yourself. So as you will hear with the way that I'm talking with you, the way that I am on Twitter is the way that I am in real life. There's not two different people. I am exactly the same as I am online as I am in real life. I often get the comment from people who meet up with me on who've followed me on Twitter and have then met me at a conference or something, going, "You're exactly the same as you
Yep.
are online." Well, of course I am. I can't keep two personalities in my head. It's not possible.
But a lot
I
of
think
people do. They have a different personality for every I don't know how they do it, but I think that for me, that is why I wanted to continue to follow you, because you just seemed loudly yourself, and you're funny and you're striking and you're very, technically smart, but you make it in such a fun way that anybody can kind of jump on board.
I think
Just
a
as
lot of that
yeah.
comes down to the Australian in me as well. We're kind of blunt and outspoken. Maybe that's just me. And I think a lot of people follow me as well. And I hate to say this, I think a lot of people enjoy the profanity because a lot of people are quite guarded on social media. There is no filter. My social media is a lot less filtered than what I am in say my professional life. So
Sure.
Actually, as we were doing the interview, it just made me realize, I believe I reached out to you in a DM like a year, maybe even 2 years ago. And I think I wrote you like, "Dear Jess, like we haven't met or something." But I just love what you're putting out there. I remember you were making me smile. You were making me laugh. I think it was during Ignite, where actually I did catch you on stage. You were doing a live segment with Cloud Advocate lead Rick Claus, if I remember correctly. But then I also remember reaching out to you, like saying, "Hey, like you're awesome on Twitter. Like, thank you for making me laugh." So, once again, absolutely keep on doing what you're doing, and yeah, we love your voice, and definitely as a fellow woman in tech, right? So yeah. So speaking of social media, just so for us, it has been quite a roller coaster, like for everybody else around the planet, right? And we had social media keeping us connected with our friends, with our family, with the community, with you, following you on Twitter, of course. How has it been for you? Because you of course, you also love to be on stage. You have a very loud and clear voice and message to share with which you normally do in person, and now everything has been online. We're continuing online. Please tell us more how it has been for you, and if there's anything you have coming up.
So I find it kind of interesting. So yes, I love being up on stage. I love talking to people, but at the same time, I'm very much an introvert at the same time. So I have really enjoyed being at home and working from home, not having to travel. I've utilized social media a lot. So I use Twitter and Facebook and other social platforms quite heavily. A lot of my friends are spread not just all over Australia, but all over the world. So I have a number of people that I talk to regularly who are in the US and in the UK. So I've been utilizing whatever platforms I can to stay in contact with those. I also game a lot. So I played a lot of World of Warcraft. I've got a lot of friends there who I talk to regularly. I spend a lot of time on Discord so that I'm actually talking to people. I actually helped build an Australian New Zealand Discord community for nerds. So there's a whole bunch of us that, because our time zone is so weird, it's very difficult to go into other time zones because when it's dead for everybody else. So I spend a lot of time in there. Lockdown for Australia wasn't as harsh as it's been in other places. It's been relatively normal here for a number of months now. So we're still not traveling, of course. I still don't leave my city. I pretty much don't leave my house. But in terms of things that are coming up, it's really exciting for me. So on the 6th of March, which hilariously is my birthday. I'm sorry, hang on.
Hey, honey.
Here, you can say hi. You're gonna go.
Everybody's welcome on the show.
Hi, cutie.
Hey.
Okay.
Oh, she's so cute.
Aww.
Come on, let's go.
She's adorable.
Come on, Mummy's in the middle of a call. I'll see you in a bit. Even if I've finished, I'll get your microphone.
Future women in tech, huh?
That's right.
My apologies.
Walk into the
joy of working.
Don't apologize. Don't apologize.
It's hilarious. It could have been the one that rolled in on the little rolly thingy, and the mum comes in and frantically pulls her out. So as I was saying, 6th of March, I'm going to be speaking live at a conference. So I'm going to be speaking at CrikeyCon, which is an Australian security conference here in Brisbane. And I'm going to be talking, it's called Back to Basics. Why can't we get this stuff right? And it's all the security things that, as a customer engineer, I'm seeing our customers doing all the time that I feel are very basic and simple things that people should be doing that so many people aren't.
I almost want to have you back on just to say, tell us how a live event is now completely different from the world that we knew it. Part of me is so curious to know, how it's going to look, how it's going to be, just with all the new social norms that have completely changed. So, please tweet all about the live in-person event, because I want to hear all about it.
I 100% will.
Yeah, no, I am jealous. I miss events. I miss being there live and hugging people and laughing with people in the corridor. So you are very privileged to be able to do this in person, and I want to hear all about it.
I've got to admit, I went into the office for the very first time since the 28th of February last year. I went in last Tuesday for the very first time, and it was lovely. And it was so difficult to get out of the habit of shaking people's hands or giving people a hug. And you're like, oh, what do I do? Elbow, bump, fist, bump, what are we doing?
I have started to ask people that, like, okay, well, what do you do? Do you wave? Do you hug? Do you fit? Like, where are we at on the spectrum, and respecting everybody's personal space, because it is so different now. But so thinking about how times have changed, the one thing I do really respect and love about Microsoft is the constant ingenuity of them to teach and learn and train their employees. And I noticed that you recently, I don't know how recent, but that you got a certification, and it is the accessibility in action. And I would love for you to tell us about, what that is, how it has impacted you, and what you've done with it.
So the accessibility in action, it's something that I really wanted to do, and it came about through Humans of IT. So Shona Bang, who is an absolute she's the one who actually showed me all about the accessibility in action, and she's the one who said that we should look at going off and doing that as much as possible. So the certification is pretty much being an ally in every sense of the word. So it's understanding the range of diversity that's out there, how to ensure that everyone feels included and inclusive, and recognizing your own internal unconscious bias. So it's made me far more aware of how I interact with people, and how I can provide that accessibility in the way that I engage with others. So an example of that is, say, providing alt text on images via Twitter for those who are hard of sight and need to have that audio to be able to say what they're looking at. So it's just little things, and they seem so basic, and when you think about it, you're like,
big difference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's just making sure that you're recognizing that everyone approaches the world differently and making sure that you're being inclusive of that.
And what would you say was one of the biggest learnings that you had during that certification?
My own unconscious bias. So I already knew that I had some unconscious biases for some things. I won't go into detail because it's exceptionally embarrassing, but knowing what your unconscious biases are and recognizing them and being able to call yourself out on them internally and say, no, that's not cool. I need to not think that way. I think that's probably been my biggest one, is being able to do that internally within myself so that I'm not pushing those biases out.
It's a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot. It was a great process to go through. I really loved it. For anyone in Microsoft, I highly recommend going off and doing it.
So you got some homework to do, Holly. Is it just for Microsoft employees, or is it also for externals, or you don't know?
I'm not sure. It could be for externals as well, because most of the learning that I did was via LinkedIn Learning, so it is completely possible that it's accessible to everybody.
All right, good to know. So for whoever is viewing, watching, listening, to actually to know about that. So thanks a lot to Jess for bringing it also to our attention, and for Holly for asking. So, Jess, you also have your own blog, and I know you write technical blogs. You also share a lot of your thoughts in non-tech blogs. So yeah, please tell us a bit more how you started, like tips or tricks you would give to anybody who's looking into starting a blog but just doesn't have the courage yet or doesn't know where to begin. What would you, as an experienced blogger, say?
Write about what you're passionate about. That's how I got started. It was just writing about things either that I was exceptionally passionate about or information that I wanted to share that I felt others needed to know. Because you may seem to think that, oh, this is basic knowledge, everyone knows it. I think I wrote back right in the early days of my blog, I wrote a really basic tech tip on how to fix up an issue with an Asus tablet that I had. That blog post has been seen like 15,000 times because so many people had the same issue and no one else had written about it. So if there's information that you have to share, don't be afraid to share it. Just because someone else has already written about it doesn't mean that your perspective on it isn't important and isn't valuable. So write about what you're passionate about, write about what you love, write down things that you think would be helpful to others. You only need to be writing for yourself to start with. So it doesn't even need to be for an audience. When I first started writing my blog, the only person who was viewing my blog was my husband. That was it. There was no one else reading it. So writing for yourself and learning how you write and liking the way you write is really important. And then once you manage to get sort of your cadence and your voice, that's when you can sort of start expanding that and writing about more things maybe people want. That they'll ask you, do you want to write about this? And you'll be sure, yeah, I'll give it a go. I have never really done guest blog posts just because I tend to get inspiration for my blogs, and then that's when it'll just come out in like a word vomit. And I haven't written for so long. I feel really bad, so I should probably get back on that bandwagon. Maybe I will after this conference. So my back to basics stuff, I will probably put that down in a blog post as well.
Oh yes, please do.
But yeah, writing about what you're passionate about, I think, is the most important part.
So when we take what you just said into what Izzy and I do, our passion is definitely community. And the thing, like you said, we just started this out of our own passion, and it's 10 episodes later, and we're still completely loving it. And we're so thankful for the people that are guests on the show. We are thankful for the people that are subscribing to the show. So, thank you for taking the time to be with us, especially 6 a.m. It's noon. It's noon for me. So,
what time is it for you, Izzy?
For me, it's 9:30 p.m. right now.
Oh, it's insane.
Bedtime. Past my bedtime.
We're making things happen. So when we talk about, passion, you not only have passion for writing and doing your blogs, but you have a huge passion that Izzy and I have, which is being involved in multiple tech communities. I would love, to encourage other people to join various communities, and there's a lot. So tell us a little bit about some of the tech communities that you're engaged in and what the benefit is that you've been able to get from being part of these communities.
So there's a couple of different, so there's a strong community that I'm a really big part of. So I'm really big for women in tech, and I help, along with Sonia Cuff, lead the Women IT Pros community here in Australia. So we have a couple of different communities. There's one here in the APAC region. We've got one over in the US and one over in the EMEA region. So that way we cover all the time zones. And Sonia and I, we run a call every month, and it's for IT pros. So we run it for people, women who aren't developers, because there's this big push for women in coding and women who do Python and women who script. And it's like, I don't do any of those things. I tinker with servers and desktops. So trying to get those people who don't really necessarily fit that coding mold, and showing them that there is a range of different careers and opportunities that are available to you if you don't do coding. I mean, tech is such a wide-ranging field. And so every month we run a call. It can be on either a technical subject. So we recently did one just recently on certifications and what you need to do to prepare for some of the certifications. Or it can be on non-technical items. So we've had discussions about career and career progression. So I love being a part of that community. It's broadened the number of women that I know in this community. And I'm very much in the mindset of we are all better if we lift each other up. There used to be this mindset that there can, almost like Highlander, there can be only one woman, and that's just not the case. So we're much better if we lift each other up, and that's where I found this to be really beneficial, being able to see the women who are in this community and being able to help them out where I can and get their help as well. So the contacts that I've made have been enormously helpful with some of the tech stuff that I've come across.
Well, and you're shooting down biases like you talked about earlier, right? I mean, by doing these calls within the tech community, you're telling people this concept of you have to code or you have to do these things, you don't have to. I've actually listened to a few of your shows with Sonia, and I thought they were great. I thought they were impactful. I thought they were empowering to other women in tech.
And that's what we want. That's exactly what we want. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, so you're doing awesome work. I love it. You and Sonia bring a lot of passion to tech in a very, very positive, powerful way. So between the work you're doing in the identity space and the women in tech space, and now you're going to blog about it. So no, this
totally. Yes.
Yeah. Indeed, Jess. So, I mean, that's also why we invited you on the show, right? I mean, both Holly and I, we would just love everything you do for the community. You're such an active, warm and caring person as well, and then of course so involved into the tech world. But let's say you would have the opportunity to just step out of the tech world. I'm not saying that you will, but if you could take any job on the planet, it doesn't matter whatever job it would be, where would we see Jess working?
It's hilarious because I actually have these discussions quite frequently in some of the Discord communities that I'm in when we're talking about, that's it, I've had enough, I'm leaving tech, I'm never coming back. So my fallback would be, I'd be a cupcake baker. So I love baking. I really enjoy baking. So and a lot of my friends love the cupcakes when I end up making them and do cakes and cake decorating. So yeah, I'd probably end up being a cupcake maker, either that or a Lego designer.
Wow. Or both. Just both.
I was just gonna say
Lego designer by day, cupcake baker by night.
That's me.
And then come to the tech conferences and bring all the cupcakes.
Yeah, that sounds like me. Yeah, I could do tech cupcakes. That'd be awesome.
All right. So speaking of future, Jess, we have just seen your daughter actually bump into 2 times, which is very cute. I love especially the second time how she walked in. She just looked around. What's mommy doing? All right. Okay. Everything under control.
She just
walked away and she shut the door. I mean, that's just.
You didn't get to hear her, but she came in. She's like, I just want to give you a hug. And she gave me a cuddle on the side and then walked out. It was lovely.
So sweet.
Too adorable. So I've also seen she has her own Twitter account, right? She's Little Girl Germs.
Little Girl Germs.
So she's also on Twitter. So let's say she's watching this episode in, I don't know, like 10 years from now, and she sees herself like walk in twice on the show. Absolutely adorable. But what is it you would like to tell her when she's watching this and let's say 10 years from now?
Do what you love. If you love what you do, you're no longer getting up of a morning to go to work is not a chore. And I realize that it's very much a privilege to be able to do what you love. And I'm very grateful for it. But if you have the opportunity, do what you love. And I love my job. I love getting up of a morning and doing my job. And I am very grateful for that privilege.
I was just telling Izzy that every morning when we do a recording, I wake up excited because this is a huge passion of ours. And I'm thankful that Microsoft encourages you to do these little they call them side hustles, but do what you love on the side. Even though I enjoy my job and I'm thankful doing this, I wake up at, once a month when we record and I'm ready to go. So I think that's beautiful advice, and it's advice that I would share with my girls as well. But before we close out the show, because we do have a tech audience, and I know that you're getting ready to present on this, but if you were going to end the show with one major tip for people in the security and identity space, what would it be? What are you going to land?
One tip. Oh, that's really hard.
Yeah. I got you thinking.
You do, because if it's, and it depends on the audience, because if it's just purely technical, like if it's a lot of technical people, then a lot of my basic stuff, hopefully they're already doing. But if it's not, that's where it gets a bit trickier. For me, I think it's documentation. I think that's going to be my big one. When it comes from a security perspective, make sure you're writing stuff down. That's not how I would usually phrase it, I'll be honest. Make sure you're writing things down, because if you're not always going to be in that job. You're not always going to be in that position. You're not always going to be in that company. So making sure you're writing down what you're doing, and more importantly, why you're doing it. Because if you're not writing down why you're doing it, someone could come in and then blow it all away, not realizing the background of that. That to me is probably the big one. A lot of my job as a security professional is coming in and working out the whys, and it shouldn't be that hard.
I think that's excellent feedback for all of us for many reasons. In fact, being on a team that takes feedback, quite often the feedback that I receive is, the documentation isn't up to date, or somebody left and now I don't know what to do. So no, I think that's great advice for our audience. So I just want to say thank you from 3 different countries. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the show and all that you're doing for the women in tech. It was great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fabulous. And I'm very honored and humbled that you guys picked me to come and join.
Anytime.
Of course. We send you our heart. Great. Thanks so much, Jess. Have a great day.